So good afternoon, Jeroen Poels. You're a Dutch lawyer, and you just had a recent victory in the court of lahaie in the Netherlands. It's at the same time a professional issue, but it's also a personal issue, where you're combining your skills as a lawyer, but you're also your personal situation. Maybe it's important for the viewers of François that you explain a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and really what happened with respect to this personal situation.
Yes, good afternoon, Xavier. Thank you for having me here. I'm a lawyer, so I'm since March this year we have done several procedures against the state for the corona politics. What happened now is that my wife and my children went in holiday to Zanzibar, and we picked Zanzibar because we refuse to have ourselves tested. We don't take PCR tests. We find it an intrusion of the physical integrity of your body, which is a human right, and they cannot force you. We picked Tanzania because the president in Tanzania, he decided in April already that this corona thing is, in his view, a big fraud. And Tanzania decided not to participate because he says he thinks that his population has to work, has to live, and he sees no reason to destroy their lives. So this was the reason why my family went there. Unfortunately, I was too busy with our procedures against the state to go as well in holiday, so I decided to stay here. My wife really enjoyed it there because she says it's fantastic to see a society where corona is absolutely not there. The president also forbid all the media to talk about corona, and this is a really relaxed atmosphere. And she says, I can cry if I see what we are doing to our society.
So it's basically the opposite.
Can you still hear me? Because I think the connection was.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
So what they're doing, what they're doing, what they're doing in Tanzania is pretty much the opposite of what we're seeing in Europe. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yes, and you can see there is no problem. Of course, there are problems. You know, people die every day, but they have bigger problems like malaria, and really there is no issue about it. People are not dying on the streets. But after they left to Tanzania, our government decided that everybody has to show a negative PCR test before they come back to the Netherlands. This is an intrusion of our human rights because the fourth, how do you say this, from the European Treaty for Human Rights, yeah, from the Treaty of Rome, it says that this is the fourth, how do you say this in English?
Article
2, but it's the fourth protocol with this treaty. Article 2, it says that you have always the right to go back to your country where you are a citizen. Always. There is no but or ifs. This is your rights. And what the government did now, refusing your own people because they cannot show a negative test, is an intrusion of these rights. This is what we said. And the other one is the test is an intrusion of your physical integrity, of your body. It's an intrusive test. This means this is also your right to refuse it. You can never be forced to take this test without there must be legal grounds. There are exceptions in this, but normally you can say if you are a healthy person, the state cannot force you to take any tests.
So it's important. What you're saying, it's important because because in a lot of these, a lot of our countries, we have had the state of urgency, So what you're saying is that the state of urgency does not command a superiority in terms of legislation beyond and above those 2 points.
The thing is, of course, they will try to make legislation to make this possible. But in principle, this is when we call about the Code of Nuremberg. We don't want things to repeat which happened in the Second World War. This means we made human rights. And one of them is you cannot be forced to any medical investigation. This is the principle. And there are a few exceptions, but there must be in front of a judge, and you have the right to a lawyer and everything. It cannot be that the state forces you to take a test, which on top of that is a test which we know now it doesn't, the outcome of the test doesn't tell you whether you are sick or you're not sick. It doesn't tell you anything. It can be part of a diagnosis from a doctor, but it can never be a diagnosis without a doctor. It's impossible.
So you then filed
so the judge he decided because.
Sorry, I just say you just filed.
I filed an urgent application. Yeah.
And when was it?
Go on. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So can you explain to us a little bit the process, because I think that the auditors and people don't tend to be familiar with the process of an application.
What I did is the following. I went immediately to the court with an urgent. I filed an urgent application. I filed it on Monday, and we had yesterday we had already the court case, and today he gave a verdict. So this was very quickly, and he decided that without a solid legal ground, which must be very specific, you cannot force your people to take this test. So they are allowed to travel back without test. So this is very good.
Okay.
Go on.
No, excellent. It's very good news then.
Yes, the other thing is, yes, not only for myself and my family, because with this verdict, everybody, every Dutch people, because we got so many reactions from people everywhere and around. They were panicking because they were stuck. Yeah, because also when you have a positive test, it means you have to stay where you are, and you have to stay in quarantine until you test negative. So imagine you cannot get a negative test. You cannot come back to your country. Nobody is telling you how you're going to pay this. You are obsolete in a strange country. You have to pay your hotel, everything. So this is total madness. So everybody who is now stuck abroad, they can use this verdict and say, listen, this is void, this regulation, and I want to go back. And as well, they can request for compensation for every cost they made, because what the state did is unlawful.
And so this applies only for Dutch people, or does it apply? Does it covers other European countries?
In principle, of course, everybody who is being refused by his own country use this. Everybody, but of course they will have to go to court themselves. But in principle, this court case can be used. This will be used everywhere. And I don't know how other countries with this, but I'm sure there are more countries where they are forcing people to test, and they should also go to court, because this is unacceptable.
Okay, well, Jeroen, thanks a lot for this. Is there anything else that is important? When is your family going to travel back?
They're coming back on the 1st of January, and they are very relieved, because where they are, it's quite complicated to get a test, because they have to go to the mainland, have to stay there one night. So and this is not only for my family, this is for thousands of people around the world. They are put into a corner by our own government, because the whole holiday is ruined. And to tell you the truth, the only reason why they are doing this is because we are not listening to the advice, because the advice is not to travel, but it's in our constitution. You can leave your country whenever you want. We don't need permission from our government. So if I decide to go, I go. I don't need their permission. And this is a way to punish people who decided to go on holiday despite of the advice.
Okay, so I suppose if I may, because you are very forceful as a citizen and also as a professional lawyer, but I'm sure that as an individual you pay attention to the virus and social distancing and so on and so forth with your family, or is this something that you're not talking about?
Oh no, honestly, yes, I can talk about this because I believe these rules are not legitimate. There is, as they are beyond every border of reasonability. They are not reasonable. So I believe they are illegal, what they are forcing, and we will be fighting against these rules until there is a victory, because we must be liberated. This cannot be true that our governments are punishing their own people with this kind of inhuman rules. This is inhuman. It has never been and never been seen in the history of humankind that governments are under regulations which are antisocial and which goes into the human nature. So I believe and I hope we next year we get a clear victory on this point.
Okay, yeah. Well, then thanks a lot for your time and for your for telling us a little bit about your personal experience, but also your professional handling of the situation. And let's hope it gets helped. It helps other people in other countries. Of course, local legislation will have to apply, but it's a nice victory to end 2020, I suppose, for yourself and for your family. And we wish you a good reunion in 2021. Thanks
Thank
a
you very
lot.
much, Xavier, and to you as well.